Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, warshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're concluding our little look at the super ships currently available on public test. As we take a spin and look around, this is Tier 10 Super Destroyer. This is Russian Zorkiy. Now, Zorkiy is essentially a super Khaba with a Khabarovsk, right, with a little bit of a gimmick, but she does have a couple of places where she notably improves upon Khaba, and they're not small improvements, so we're going to point those out along the way, okay? That's on top of beside her little gimmick that she has. So let's look around the ship, starting as we do with survivability, 23,600 HP. This is about 1,000 more hit points than Khabarovsk has, which is interesting because this is essentially the same hull. If you remember, Annapolis, looking at the cruisers, Annapolis and Conde have more guns. Yamagiri has more torpedo tubes. Zorkiy here does not have more armament. She has the same number of guns, the same turret arrangement, but she still gets a few thousand more hit points. I'm not sure why, but I'm not sure what they're justifying that in terms of increased displacement, but there it is. Armor layout, it is a Khaba, so she's got the 50mm plate. This one looks like it's forward up over the magazines. Of course, a midship, and then aft over the magazines as well. She seems like she's got more 50mm plate than Khabarovsk. Let's check something real quick. Let's actually look at that. I had not checked this prior to sitting down to record, but now that I look at it, she looks like she has... No, okay, it's the exact same armor layout. Khaba has the plates forward and aft as well. Okay, good to know. Good to know. So same armor layout as Khabarovsk. 50mm gives her, of course, that little bit of leg up when fighting other destroyers. Maneuverability and concealment. This is one of the things that Zorkiy straight up does better. Same speed, 43 knots. Same turning radius, 760 meters. But look at the rudder shift, guys. 8 seconds. That 8-second rudder shift is almost 4 full seconds better than Khabarovsk. Remember, Khabarovsk has been nerfed into the ground several times to the point where her rudder shift is over 11 seconds base, right? You put double rudder on this ship, this rudder shift time drops down to like under 4 seconds. It is amazing. You can actually dodge things again, like Khaba used to be able to way back in the olden days. So that's one place that Zorkiy gets a significant buff, and it's subtle, right? Because it's a maneuverability buff. It's not a straight up, damage firepower. Look at me, I have more firepower. You really don't, but you're a little harder to hit because you're a little more maneuverable. Concealment is identical to Khabarovsk. You see here with Zorkiy's permanent camo, she comes in at 9.7. Stripper naked, she's at 10.0 base detection on the surface. Full stealth rig gets down to about 7.8, 7.9 if you want to go that route. Although, admittedly, most Khabarovsk players don't these days. Most players go with Fearless Brawler and just run around at 10, 12, 14 kilometers with the new AFT skill and pew-pew all the things. Main battery, let's have a quick look here. Same main battery, right? I'm looking at 5-second reload. That's the same. 9-second turret traverse. That's the same. What's different? Zorkiy gets more base range. Over a kilometer. Over a kilometer. 10% more base range, basically, than Khabarovsk does. Remember, Khabarovsk had not only her maneuverability nerfed, but her base range was nerfed, which, of course, then also limits the buff you can get out of the range enhancement skills, okay? So, Zorkiy here, 12.3 kilometers base. That is over as 1.1 kilometers more than Khabarovsk has for the exact same main battery. Now, one small difference, again, it's very subtle. Her HE shells don't hit quite as hard as Khabarovsk. You see there, 1,800 points of damage per shell. Khaba still comes in at 1,900 points on her HE shells. Now, I want to look at something because I didn't think to check this before I started recording. Yeah, okay, so if you remember, Khabarovsk cannot take the range modification in slot 6, neither can Zorkiy. So they do share that built-in handicap, as she is still a Khabarovsk in that regard. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Have a quick look at the torpedoes. Torpedo armament is actually very different, okay? Khabarovsk's torpedoes are fairly stealthy. They're only 6 kilometers, okay? And they hit much hard. They hit like trains. They have almost a 20,000 alpha damage. She does retain 2 mid launchers here, 2 quintuple launchers, but the torpedoes here on Zorkiy, very different. First of all, they don't hit as hard, 14,500 for the alpha. They move faster, 60 knots compared to Khabarovsk 53. They're twice as detectable, 1.2 kilometers as opposed to Khabarovsk's 0.6 kilometers. But the big difference is the range, guys. The range, 8-kilometer torpedoes here on Zorkiy. That is more in line with what you'd expect, basically looking at a Kleber, which also has 8-kilometer torpedoes. So, but and a slight, a detection range you can get down into the mid to high sevens. So, like a Kleber, Zorkiy here, if you build her for full stealth, and again, not many people do, but if you do, you can have the ability to stealth torpedo with the thing. It's a very narrow window, but it can be done. Either way, 8-kilometer torpedoes gives her a ton more flexibility simply because, if you're in a gunfight, you're running around, those 8-kilometer torpedoes are actually much more of a threat than the 6-kilometer ones. 6-kilometer ones on Khabarovsk, you got to be up in somebody's face to make them work. 8 kilometers, if I'm kiting away and you're chasing me down, you might stumble into those. So that is a noteworthy change. Last thing worth kind of mentioning here is Zorkiy's AA suite. It is a little better than Khaba's, mostly on the strength of the dual-purpose main battery guns. The main battery guns here just hit hard. The long-range order is just better. She puts up a little more flak, 6 puffs versus Khaba's 4. The flak puffs hit harder, and then she has more continuous damage in the outer ring. Her middle ring and inner ring are comparable, like almost identical within a couple of points, right? So, it's not enough to dissuade somebody from running you down, right? If a carrier wants to come for you, he's certainly going to have the ability to try and drop you. But he's a little more robust, and of course, Khaba probably plan a heal, depending on how you have the ship outfitted. One more minor difference, Zorkiy's depth charge stick, she puts out 14 bombs in a charge, Khaba puts out 10, so she's, again, slightly more effective against submarines, should you find yourself in that situation. Yeah, that's basically it, guys. That's Zorkiy in a nutshell. So unlike, like all the other super ships we've looked at to up this point are literally straight up more firepower, more firepower, more firepower. Zorkiy is something different. Zorkiy is like taking Khabarovsk and rolling back the clock just a little bit back to when she was more maneuverable and had slightly better torpedoes. That's essentially what you're getting, because what are the 3 big nerfs that Khaba's had over the years, right? They gutted her maneuverability, they nerfed her main battery range, and they nerfed her torpedoes. Zorkiy gets all of that back. So if you basically, if you go back and you consider the super ships as we're talking about them to be like, Jingles calls them like, tier 11 ships, and maybe they really are. Does that mean that old school Khaba was a tier 11 ship? There's an argument to be made there, right? Maybe she was. But I also feel like the current iteration of Khabarovsk is subpar, right? And I think Zorkiy is kind of an acknowledgement of that. And I think, Khaba coming out of the tech tree, which they've announced, Khabarovsk coming out of the tech tree, going into, a premium special ship status, whatever, will allow them to make some changes to her and make her hopefully a little more comfortable to play. I don't look at Zorkiy as a test bed for that, but I look at Zorkiy as what Khabarovsk, in my opinion, right now should be because of Kleber. Kleber exists, and because Kleber exists, Khabarovsk is largely forgotten in the game. And Zorkiy, maybe not so much when she comes in, because I've done some skanky things with this ship running around on PTS. She is a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Wash your hands, be safe, and I'll catch you next time. Now, before I forget, let's go over and look at her consumables list, which is, of course, the standard damage control party. It's a Khabarovsk. You get a choice between smoke and a heal, and then, of course, an engine boost. She does have the alternate fire mode. Her alternate fire mode is a little different. So what she does when you push her into alternate fire mode, just like Conde, just like Annapolis, she loses her main battery access for 40 seconds, which really hurts, by the way, on a destroyer. You think it hurt on a cruiser? What do you do on a destroyer with a 4.5-second reload? That's 10 salvos you're missing out on, right? But what it does is for those 4 salvos that she'll vomit out very quickly in short order. They have worse dispersion, but they all get basically IFHE for those 4 salvos. So you don't have to take IFHE on the ship, but you can suddenly get the benefit of IFHE. So if you find yourself, up against a battleship and you want to farm him down, maybe try and light a couple of fires real in quick succession. Maybe you've been harassing him. He's just damage controlled some of your fires. You wait that damage control party out. You push this button. You vomit some shells on him. You probably get another fire. You get some good pens, and you get on with your day. But the trouble is, you lose a lot of potential damage there because of all the salvos you're not firing. So, I'm not sure about this one. I'm not sold that the burst fire mode is Zorkiy's selling point. To me, the Zorkiy selling point is that she basically gets back all the amazing things they stole from Khabarovsk way back over all the various nerfs that she's had.